everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really excited for this upcoming session. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sophie Marai, and I'm one of the Senior Directors of Account Management here at EA. I help support the retail side of the business, and I'm really excited today to not only bring to the stage Shahir Kamran, who's the Senior Manager, Strategic Insights at Loblaw. Shahir's career spans multiple roles across customer insights, from market research to UX research to strategic insights both on the client and supplier sides. He's currently enabling stakeholder decision-making across all of the Loblaw business lines, leveraging data to meet Canadians' evolving needs. In today's presentation, Shahir is going to delve into how Loblaw partnered with EA to explore the alignment of customer segmentation with unique opportunities in the Canadian market. By understanding various segments of the Canadian consumer landscape and key market trends, behaviors, and preferences, Loblaw can better support the evolving needs and wants of the Canadian consumer, continuing to help Canadians live life well. And on that note, I will hand it over to Shahir.
Can you all hear me? Yeah? Amazing. Hey, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Shahir, and I am excited to be here. My topic for today is unlocking customer insight, aligning Loblaw enterprise segmentation to Canadians. I know that's a mouthful, but hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll have more clarity on what I'm talking about. I've been with Loblaw for almost 3 years now, and those have been amazing 3 years. As Sophie mentioned, right now, I work in the Strategic Insights team within the Customer Center of Excellence umbrella. But I'm transitioning to a new role right now. I still love this amazing topic. I've been attached to this for 2 years. I've lived and breathed enterprise segmentation. But before we go forward, I like to talk about 2 important words on the slide. Number 1, enterprise. At Loblaw, we service multiple lines of businesses by using apparel, grocery, pharmacy, banking, and we have a diverse set of customers there. And for the rest of the presentation, anytime I talk about the word enterprise, it speaks to all those products and services. Keyword number 2, segmentation. Can I get a show of hands? How many people have used segmentation in this life or the past life? Amazing. A lot of you have. For the rest of my friends and colleagues who've not used enterprise segmentation or segmentation, I'll give you a quick recap. If I think about a ketchup brand, and I think, what should be my next strategy? How do I target all of these amazing people here? I could either have something uniform that I hope relates to everybody here, or I can form 4 groups. Group number 1 could be those people who think about the value when it comes to ketchup. Group number 2 could focus on the taste. Group number 3 at the back could focus on organic ingredients. And maybe group number 4 doesn't like ketchup at all. Now, if I create strategies that optimize and efficiently target all of these customers, I can do a great job to connect with these customers. On to the next slide. And I'll take my clicker.
This is teamwork right here.
Thank you very much. Here's one back. Amazing. At Loblaw, our goal, like I said, is to make sure customers live life well. We need to make sure customers are at the center of every strategy we have. Because if these strategies are customer-centric, automatically these strategies are better. But at the same time, we need to make sure we have innovation. But not any kind of innovation. Innovation that is not focused is meaningless, because that's not what customers are looking for. And if we have better strategies, if we have focused innovation, that leads to stronger customer happiness. And for us, right now and always, customer satisfaction, customer happiness is extremely important. Moving on. I'm part of the Customer COE team, Customer Center of Excellence, And in order to make sure we bring our mission alive, we focus on 3 pillars. Number 1, we try to enable customer centricity by providing best-in-class research tools, best-in-class primary and secondary research, and make sure when we work with strategic partners, we measure, we define, and we create business strategies together. Number 2, we enable or we drive human insight. There's always a fine balance between having proactive and reactive research. There's a need for each of these research approaches at different times. There's also a need to understand what happened in the past, what's happening right now, and what's going to happen in the future. And that's where insight and foresight come together. And if we look at foresight, we know that a future-focused culture is extremely important. We need to have a culture that supports, that empowers our colleagues and our customers. Because the mindsets of our customers, they change every year. And we need to keep a pulse on that. We need to track that at all times. The agenda for today, specific to enterprise segmentation, is I'm going to talk about the vision behind why we did this. I'm going to give you a brief synopsis on the segments itself, and then I'll go in a little more detail on each of these segments. And I'll end it with building insights and making sure we action on them. Like any proud parent, like I said, I've been working on this for 2 years now. And once I started working on this, I honestly felt my segmentation is going to be the one true answer for understanding customers within Loblaws. But the more people that I talked to, the more stakeholders that we interacted with, the more we found that everybody in Loblaws, every team, has their own version of a segmentation. They might be using something that's less complex, less detailed, covers less angles, but they have something. And that's where we realized this segmentation is not meant to be that one true answer. It's meant to be used side by side with their other segmentation that they're using. But how is our segmentation different than what Loblaws is already using? We try to make sure we give a 360-degree view of the customer. And how we do that is we try to get their transactional information, and we merge that with how do they feel, their perceptions, how do they feel about competitors. We try to take all of that data together and provide a best-in-class, customer-centric view that would provide amazing strategies that are focused on customers living life well. We had a very strong foundation of our enterprise segments, and I'd say for every segment that I'll talk about, we have 3 to 4 slides of detailed information. But we were already thinking about how do we take this to the next level? We work with amazing people in Environics Analytics. We work with Sophie, we work with Zara, we work with Bridget, we work with Josh. And now I can say is each segment has 8 to 9 detailed slides that focus on both attitudes and behaviors of people. In order to make sure we keep on bringing the vision of enterprise segmentation to life within Loblaws, we have 3 important pillars. We have measurement, we have targeting, and we have strategic decision-making. I'll give you an example. In your minds, think of your favorite product or favorite category, or if you were following the Holiday Insiders program at Loblaws last year, think of your favorite category or product from that time. Now, if we can track the performance of each product and category based on those segments, then we can find out which segment over-indexed, which under-indexed. If we're able to measure that, then we can start targeting people. So for example, if I know there's a group that likes value in ketchup, I can make sure I can send relevant marketing communications to them. And now when I think of making those strategies again for Holiday Insiders, I'll have all of this amazing information that would help create strategies. Another example could be, think of store selection. We have a store, and around that surrounding store, we have multiple people that care about value, that care about price. We can have specific stores within Loblaws that are linked to that. So there's a lot of potential when we talk about enterprise segmentation within grocery, within apparel, within pharmacy, within all our lines of businesses. I'm proud to say that even when we were considering and making an enterprise segmentation, We first talked to customers. We did qualitative research. We did interviews. We did quantitative surveys. We wanted to understand from people first about what's important to them. What really drives them? What do they think about? What do they like? Once we had that data, then we started using it with transactional information to provide that complete 360-degree view that I was talking about before. And finally, once we did that exercise, we came up with 4 super segments. Think of these 4 super segments as those groups we had about ketchup. There's one group that focuses on value, another group that focuses on convenience, top right, quality and brand, and top left focuses on local and environment. An easy way of thinking about this, think of each super segment as a continent. North America is a huge continent, but if you double-click into that continent, you have different countries. United States of America is different than Canada, but there are a lot of similarities as well. And just like that, if you double-click into the brand and quality continent super segment, you'll have different countries, different segments within. So our brand and quality super segment has comfortable connoisseurs. It has experience-seeking influencers. It has image-driven introverts. And every segment has a tagline underneath. So if you were to look at the tagline for image-driven introverts, you know that it's luxury on a budget. So people in this segment, they like luxury, but at the same time, they like affordability. Convenience is the other continent or super segment, and it has healthy habitualists, considerate convenience seekers, and pragmatic planners. If I were to think about pragmatic planners here, they have less time, they like to follow their routine, and they're budget conscious. So even when we're going through these taglines together, we feel like we know these customers a little more, a little better. We move on to the value segment. I completely understand right now we're in an economy where everybody thinks about value. But customers in this segment further over-index on that. And within this super segment, continent, we have fun-loving frugals and prepared point seekers. And finally, in the last super segment, in the last continent, we have local and environment as a super segment, and empathetic environmentalists as the country we're looking at, or the segment we're looking at, where they think global, but they act local. And I'll talk a bit more about what that means. I wasn't allowed to show you numbers here for each of these segments because of confidentiality reasons, but I can share this much. All of these segments, these 9 segments, are based on the entire Canadian population. And all of these segments are more or less equally important. So keep that in mind. It's all for Canadian population, not just specific to Loblaws. Like I mentioned before, for each and every enterprise segment, there are detailed slides that go into transaction information, that go into their emotional drivers, physical drivers. But for now, we're only going to focus on this slide and a little cheat sheet that we've developed. So if you were to look at comfortable connoisseurs, we know who they are. We know they're outgoing. We know they're balanced. They're relaxed. They like to take care of their family. They like to take care of themselves. If we think of experience-seeking influencers, they want it, they got it. They're energized. They're the life of the party. They like to try new things. So if we're thinking about product innovation, if there's a thing that's first in class for Canada, it's the first time they've seen it, then maybe experience-seeking influencers is the market we need to target. If we think of image-driven introverts, we've talked about them. You take luxury and you marry that with affordability. We talk about healthy habitualists. These are people who have a set routine. They're probably subscribing and earning. There are things coming to their house every month. They made that transaction that one time a year back, and now it's going on auto because that's how they like it. Considered convenience seekers. The part about convenience that they like, their life is extremely busy. They don't prioritize themselves, and hence they rely on online shopping, pickup, delivery, in order to make sure they can save some time there. And for them, that's true convenience. And finally, within convenience, we have pragmatic planners. Like I mentioned before, they follow a routine, they're low on money, and maybe a one-stop shop is where they truly find value. In the value segment, we have fun-loving frugals. They love the thrill when it comes to seeking deals. They might go to one store because they like deals there. They might go to another because there's a sale there. And then we have prepared point seekers who are trying to optimize the number of points that they get. For them, it's all about points days. Let me get points acquisition here. Let me redeem my points here. And then finally, empathetic environmentalists, they care deeply about the world, about Canada, about the community. And any time they buy any product or service, they make sure that it aligns to their values. Insights to action. A lot of times people create the most amazing work, which can create real impact. But if it sits in somebody's shelf or somebody's folder, it's not being used at all, then that no longer is an insight. So we've made sure at Loblaw that we've taken all the insights we got from segmentation and are actually using them. There are multiple ways they're being used right now. We've tried to transform the way we do research. Think of all the examples that I talked about, all the segments that we had. If going in a little more detail on any segment can now give you a view of that customer, maybe when you're developing products and services, you know who you're making them for. It's no longer a general crowd. There are 9 mini subgroups that you're always thinking about. And that automatically changes your mindset. It automatically changes the way you do research. Secondly, we're in a world where decisions can no longer be made with intuition alone. And this is another strong evidence of being backed by data. Number 3, company-wide alignment. A lot of times in bigger companies, there are a lot of silos. A lot of speakers today talked about that as well. But wouldn't it be awesome if somebody in Joe Fresh, when they talk about a customer, when they talk about experience-seeking influencer, somebody at Shoppers Drug Mart also understands what's going on? We're trying to make these segments universal within Loblaw. And that way we can truly create synergies and have strategies that span multiple lines of businesses as opposed to focusing on just grocery or just apparel or just pharmacy. And finally, once we do all of these things, we're in a great position to create strategies that are focused, that are customer-centric, and that can truly help the customer live life well. My last slide for today. In order to make sure we bring customer centricity to life, we've taken 4 steps. We've looked at customer identification. Think of it in a way that if I know which segments are over-indexing, which are under-indexing, and I understand how the Canadian population works on these segments, then I can actually find gaps. Maybe there are some places where we're doing great, and we can make sure to optimize that. And maybe there are some places where there's a huge gap, and we need to pull our socks. So now we know, and we can fill that gap. We can try to find white spaces. Maybe we can try something new in those spaces as well. Number 2, developing target strategy. If we know these segments, and now we do, we can actually create their journey. So for example, what are your pain points? What are your pleasure points? When you wake up, what's the process that happens? When you think about shopping, when you think about working or reading or your hobbies, now we can have a better sense of the customer's everyday moments. Communication best practices. If I know somebody prefers getting dollars off versus getting points, my marketing communication would then be on, hey, you can save $2 as opposed to you can get 2,000 PC points. So my marketing communication can be more specific, can be more personalized based on your choices and based on what we think you want to see. And again, if everybody's speaking that same language within the entire enterprise, you automatically have synergies. Where if somebody in Shoppers Drug Mart prefers points, maybe there's a higher chance maybe at our grocery stores they prefer that as well. And finally, tracking and optimization. The beauty of our enterprise segmentation is that we've created a typing tool A typing tool are 4 to 5 questions where if somebody were to answer them, we can, by some accuracy, predict what segment you would be in. So once we do, and we're doing customer research, we plan to, and we're adding this in. So now whatever insights we get, we can actually take that and connect with what we've learned internally within Loblaw's. In terms of how we're performing for products and categories, we can know where we can improve and what we're doing better. And as a synopsis, I've talked about enterprise segmentation as a whole, our vision behind it, our vision of a balanced view of customers. I talked about 3 pillars when it comes to segmentation. I talked about targeting. I talked about measurement. I talked about strategic decision making. And then I showed you a quick glimpse onto each of these enterprise segments and how we're bringing those segmentations to life. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Shahir. It
No
was an
problem.
absolute pleasure working with you and the team throughout this. I hope everybody really enjoyed this presentation. And we've actually got a couple of minutes for questions. So if anybody would like to pick Shahir's brain, here's the moment in time.
It's right there. Somebody's...
All right, we got a question right in the front.
Thank you. So very exciting always to see segmentation coming to life. And from what we can see here, it looks very internal focused. So what the retailer is doing with it, what you're doing with it in your own banners. Are you planning on rolling this out to manufacturers to also take action against your segmentation?
That's a great question. And that's definitely something on our roadmap. Right now, what we're doing is we're creating use cases. So we have 4 or 5 different areas where we've used this enterprise segmentation and we've gotten results. The next step for us is internally, we're going to communicate this across the entire organization. We want to make sure everybody within Loblaw's, within the enterprise, is using this, is speaking the same language. And once we get that stability within, the goal would then be to make sure our manufacturers are also using it. And maybe there's a time where customers can log in and actually find out what segment they are in as well. But we're definitely thinking about that. That's a great idea. Thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions? There we go.
Over there.
Got one right behind you, Scott.
How did you decide on how many of the larger buckets the segments fit into and how many segments to have for all of your customers?
That's a great question. We didn't think of any specific number when we started the journey. About 2.5 years back, 3 years back, we only had those 4 super segments, those 4 continents that I talked about. And the goal at that point in time was we needed some direction, something that was easy to understand. So what we did was we tried to do an ad hoc survey. We got information out of that. We discovered variables that we thought were important to people. And based on those variables, at that point in time, we created 4 groups. Those groups could have been 9 as well. They could have been 6 too. But 4 at that point in time seemed like a good number to at least introduce the idea of enterprise segmentation. And once we had those 4 super segments, there was a lot of demand on, hey, I need to double click onto value. What does that really mean? And once we started going through that exercise, again, it was a lot of manual processing as well as modeling there as well. But we needed to make sure we come to a number that is not too big or not too narrow. So this number 9 is making sure we don't lose out on any accuracy. At the same time, it provides us additional depth. We could have gone to 11, we could have gone to 7. But based on what we saw in the model, that number provided the most accuracy and the most nuances about the data as well.
I think we might have time for one more. Oh, one quickly there. And I don't know if I can't see the balcony all that great.
It's
Sorry, just
very
don't know if
blinding.
there's anybody up there asking a question. Don't want to miss out on you.
Hi, sorry. I don't know if you're really allowed to answer this question, but
Then maybe I'm not. I'm kidding. Kidding.
just wondering if the segmentation work had anything to do with the no-name banner that recently opened, or if that is a separate stream of work altogether.
That is a great question. In a lot of work that we do, we're trying to put in enterprise segmentation in our weekly reporting. So if there's any metric that we look at, we're now in the process of making sure that, hey, if you're thinking about a new location, then enterprise segmentation should be a part of it. So we have worked with real estate to figure out that how can we implement this in the base, that once you're making those strategies, you'll have that view of that specific segment as well. So yes, it is a part of it. I'm not too sure how much of it is used right now, but the plan is that it becomes a major part in site selection in the future.
Oh,
There's
all
one at
right.
the end.
Last one at the back, squeezed in.
And again, if you have any more questions, feel free to find me.
Just a quick question. Did you guys use PC Optimum data to come up with the segments? And if yeah, how did you use it? Thanks.
Great question. When we were building the model, a lot of the data that we used was based on GenPop. But once we started using transactional information, our goal to align data within the enterprise is based on data from PC Optimum. That is our unique identifier. That's the way we connect all information. And even in our branding, you will see how PCO is an extremely important part of making sure that entire PC ecosystem is connected together. Yeah, that's a great question, though.
Brilliant. Well, a big thank you to Shahir and the entire Loblaw team that was involved in this. Shahir, you phenomenal presentation. I know everybody enjoyed it, same with myself. And as Shahir mentioned, if you would like to ask him more questions, feel free to find him during the break, which is where we're headed to next.